Hello folks, this is BestInSlot and welcome to the first of a series of videos we'll be doing covering various aspects of the new Jurassic World Evolution DLC, Return to Jurassic Park, out on 10th of December. We're going to be covering these in a little bit more depth, hopefully more than basically any other channel out there. We'll be splitting these videos into two halves. The first is only going to talk about the facts, i.e. what do we already know. So if you want to find out that information quickly, you can do so without listening to me blather on unscripted or speculating on the spot. The second half will be unscripted speculation. How do I think these mechanics can or should work? What does it say for the future of the game? Will they be expanded further than we've seen already? As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down below. Let's get started. This video 1 then, is going to cover the two new creatures in Return to Jurassic Park, the Pteranodons and the Compsognathus. As of right now, we do believe these are the only two new creatures. That would make a little bit of sense anyway. We'll start with the latter because it's the one we have less information on. What we did learn about the Compsognathus we learned about from the Game Watcher article that first broke the news on the details of the DLC, and they said the following. The tiny Compsognathus will also feature, and both will have their own special paddocks, talking of course also about the Pteranodon. We presume there will be some special measures required if either break out. Now Compsognathus is of course the final film dinosaur we were missing from Evolution, so it's pretty baller that we finally managed to round out that roster entirely. As with the Pteranodon and its big ass aviary we're going to look at later, the Compy will come with its own special enclosure, but it's worth noting that some of the fences we've seen in the DLC already have a wire grating towards the bottom that looks perfectly suited to keeping Compies contained. Is that simply a visual touch, or will Compies in fact be present in normal enclosures? Game Watcher could have made a mistake. It does happen. There's been speculation that the raptor holding pen we've seen images of will be used for this Compy enclosure, but I really have my doubts about that. Namely because it would A, dwarf the Compy entirely, just a little babby with the spear. B, there's no visible viewing areas other than the top where again it would be lost in the foliage. And C, thematically it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Compy, via Compsognathus, does appear in the first novel, but it does not appear in the first film. It's instead found in The Lost World on Isla Sorna, a location we know we are visiting yet again during this DLC, so it seems likely to me that the Compy will receive a custom pen we've not yet seen during our visit to Isla Sorna, presumably in the latter half of the DLC. The raptor pen is of course on Isla Nublar, and it is definitely the raptor pen from the first film because you can see the metal bars bent outwards just like we see in the first film with Sattler and Muldoon. We're going to discuss that a little bit more later, the idea of the Compy enclosure, but my first thought is that it's going to be similar to the exhibitions we currently have in Planet Zoo. We don't also have any information on the breakouts right now other than that slightly speculative line from Game Watcher. And that's really all we have for the Compy, unfortunately. Not much information yet. Hopefully we found out a little bit more. We've got a feature focus in 2 days. You never know. Maybe they'll talk about the Compy and show us the enclosure. We do have a good look at the Pteranodon actually though, thanks to the presence of two different screenshots. And this is the first of the two, giving us an overview of the aviary from a distance. A pretty necessary distance because this thing is bloody huge. There's several interesting things to note here, no less than the new paths we can see, as well as the presence of the classic green and yellow tour vehicle in the distance. We're going to cover both of those in future videos though, it's not the focus of today. As for the aviary itself, there's a walk-in path to the lower right with an opening similar to those classic Jurassic Park gates, and there's also a not pathed area but there's an opening to the lower left that looks more suited to vehicles and does bear a fairly strong resemblance to the aviary seen in Jurassic Park 3. If this aviary was sunk into the water a little bit, then it would be almost identical. The aviary design itself apes a lot of what we're going to see in this DLC. It's big, chunky concrete with thick metal fencing. I'm going to say the word chunky a lot today. It is highly probable that this is a singular, large, placed building, similar to the existing Innovation Centre. Again, we'll speculate on that a little bit later. Now, for the inside of the aviary and the Pteranodons themselves, we can get a good look at the one flying closer to the camera. Blowing it up, as in making it bigger, not, bazooka, lightening it a little shows how it is in fact designed after the Jurassic Park 3 Pteranodon. The wings are light but speckled with black, the belly is tinged with red, and the beak is covered in this dark and jagged pattern. It's hard to make out, but this Pteranodon does indeed have teeth as well. It's also terrifying. Best seen in Jurassic Park 3 in my opinion, just saying. Interestingly, and I definitely missed this at first glance, there's actually two other Pteranodons lurking in this aviary, and a little shout out to the Planet Zoo Discord of all places for highlighting these for me. One of them is sat at the top of the central pillar in a resting position facing away from the camera, the other is also sat down, this time on the right hand side pillar and right next to that caged walkway. This one is animated a little differently, it's rearing its head back as if it's crying out. Here are all the Pteranodons highlighted so you can see how spread out they are across the aviary. I'm going to talk about this again later, but again I think this is good evidence for a Planet Zoo exhibit style aviary. As for the aviary layout, we can see it's also styled similar to Jurassic Park 3 with those large rock pillars, rolling mists, and a river running through its lower reaches. It's also adorned with a long caged walkway that stretches across the entirety of the aviary near enough. On the screenshot given, we can't quite see the right hand side. The walkway ends in 3 different places. 2 of them end to the left, 1 in a dead end, and 1 with what looks to be an access door, assumedly for park staff. Then there's 1 further to the right as well that ends in another access gate, this time onto a rock pillar with a metal platform on top of it. Looks like it'd be used for feeding or something like that. Now I will say it does not look to me like the guests will be using these walkways. The bunker looking building to the lower left of the screen is also visible in the past screenshot right by the guest entrance that we see in use. If you blow this image up on the second aviary shot, again not with a bazooka, we can actually make out the shape of a park guest observing the aviary on a 2-tiered stand very similar to the existing viewing platforms. There is no discernible entrance to the gated walkways, nor do we see any guests using them. That's not to say it's not possible, it would be a little disappointing for me personally, but evidence does not suggest the guests will be using these walkways. We're going to talk about those specifically quite a lot in the speculation bit, but factually right now, it does not look like that's the case. Finally, really squeezed in there, but in the bottom right we can see the vehicle entrance, or what looks to be a vehicle entrance, squeezed into that corner. This is the other half of the entrance I mentioned for the previous screenshot, and again it bears a striking resemblance to the exit that our protagonists, and Amanda Kirby, used in Jurassic Park 3. You see what I did there? What's a bad idea? And that's really all we can glean from the aviary image, but there is a surprising amount of detail packed into this one screenshot and it is ripe for speculation. Let me know what you think down below. Did I miss anything? I don't think so, but maybe I did. Let me know. And we're going to speculate for a little bit now. So we're going off script, we're going crazy. Hold on to your butts. So the 2 things I mainly want to talk about are A, what is the Compie exhibit going to look like? And B, how will these function at all? Specifically the aviary with its camera. So let's talk about the AVO Camera System first, because that's the main thing for me. That I was disappointed that I don't see guests using this walkway. I really don't think they're going to, because there is an inbuilt viewing area. The problem with that viewing area, of course, is that it's on the ground. It's not a great way to view the Pteranodons unless they have an animation that flies them down to that lower reach. You'd want something higher up, halfway up the aviary, near the top, something like that, so you can see the Pteranodons at flight level. What I'm hoping for is a multi-camera system, kind of like the Jurassic Tour vehicles we already have, where you can sit in the front, or you can sit in the 2 different seats at the back. Hopefully, because I don't think we're going to be walking around the aviary or anything like that, hopefully we can jump between cameras. Let's say we'll have one down at the bottom at that viewing area, but maybe there'll be different cameras placed around the walkway that we can jump to and then observe the Pteranodons from different locations on top of pillars and stuff like that. If it's only the camera at the bottom, that would be quite disappointing because it's not going to be a great view, I don't think. And I don't think that'll be the case. I'm 90-ish% sure it'll be like the tour. So you'll click on the aviary and you'll jump to a camera, and then at the bottom right you'll have a little thing saying next view or next camera, next angle, something like that, and you'll just be able to click through 3 or 4 or 5 different camera shots to take a look at the aviary and try to look at the Pteranodons from there. Hopefully move the camera around a little bit and zoom in and stuff like that, but if I had to wager, I'd say that's what it's going to look like. In terms of actually using these buildings for both the Compie and the Pteranodon, I'm pretty unsure what that's going to look like. Obviously, I think we're going to lock these on Isla Sorna, if I had to guess, and you're going to put these buildings down, and then what? You know? So there's a few different ways they could go. There's 2 main options, as far as I see it, or 1.5, or 2.5. Let's go 2.5. The first is that you put it down. Say you put down the aviary, it populates with 3 Pteranodons, and they fly around on a looped animation. And maybe the looped animations have some variety in there. They can go into different looped animations from one, so it looks a little bit less mechanical. I don't think they'd do a fairly dull, constantly looping animation for each different Pteranodon. If I had to guess, they'll mix it up somehow, but I do think it'll be looped animations. I'd be very, very surprised if they had like a proper AI. I just don't think that'll be the case. So do you just plonk these buildings down and the Compies and Pteranodons are there and they do their thing? Or do we have a little bit of control? If I had to give an approximation, it would be like the Planet Zoo exhibits. You put them down, you can control some aspects of the environment, and then you can choose how many animals you want in that exhibit. So you put down an empty aviary, let's say there's no rock pillar in the middle, you could put a big tree there instead. Maybe you can control how much mist there is. You'd have just a couple of toggle options to choose what environmentally populates that aviary. That's me being a little optimistic. I actually don't think that'll make it in. I do suspect we may have a little bit of control over how many animals are in that aviary. So maybe you'll click on the aviary, you'll go to a tab, kind of looking like the hatchery, and you'll have 3 or 4 slots, and you'll just click on one and then choose to pick a Pteranodon and to hatch that Pteranodon just like you would with the hatchery. I think that seems likely to me, and what that also does is open up the door to future pterosaurs, like say the Dimorphodon, which was of course in Jurassic World. Likewise with the Compie, if they wanted to bring in other tiny dinosaurs that they think wouldn't fit in, you could have the Compie exhibit and then choose to bring in something else. I don't know. I'm pretty unsure. The pessimist in me suggests you're just going to put it down and they're all going to look identical and you don't really have any control whatsoever. I think they'll still be cool buildings, but hopefully we get just a little bit of control. We'll have to wait and see on that. Finally, as for the Compie exhibit, we don't have any clue what it looks like. I am 98% sure on this, 98.7% sure that the raptor pen is not Compie related. I don't know what the raptor pen is. We can speculate and talk about that. I'm going to have another video talking about the buildings and stuff like that down the line. But what I would like to see is again something similar to Frontier's past game, not Planet Zoo though, but Zoo Tycoon 3. All the exhibits in Zoo Tycoon were already sort of pre-made, but again you could control different things, you put different statues in and stuff like that. Now if Compies are indeed, you know, custom enclosures and not allowed to run around, which would make sense, they are bloody tiny, then you're going to put this enclosure down, this building down. It could be like an indoor building, hopefully we can look inside if so. But let's say you put it down, it's a big automatically fenced and gated kind of enclosure, and it's like a little creek running sort of area with logs and trees and stuff like that. That might look pretty cool. But I'd like again a little bit of creative control there. I'm thinking if you're going to model it after anything, maybe not the most iconic scene for the Compies, but the location that best is iconic for the Compies, I would say is in Jurassic Park 3 with the turned over truck. They weren't there for very long, but I think that's pretty cool. You know, Eric and Grant, he is the Compies and he has the T-Rex P, and they made that funny little joke about, you don't want to know how I get the P. I've always wondered about that. How did he get it? Did he literally stand underneath a urinating Tyrannosaurus Rex? Because that seems unlikely to me. Is that explained anywhere? I'm very curious about that now. Anyways, the point is, that would be cool. Like, let's say you're just given this forest, water-ridden area, this nice little open place with some trees at the side, and then you can just toggle, put a log there, put a truck there, put something else there. Just a little bit of creative control, because I don't think we're going to be populating these with trees and rocks ourselves. So, little toggle options to design them, kind of again like Planet Zoo, would be really cool. And that's what I'd want it to look like. I want that overturned truck. You know, we're banking hard on the nostalgia. Give it to me. Or give me a dead Dieter. That would be cool as well. That is, for me, the iconic scene for the Compies, of course, the kill on Dieter. In my opinion, the most brutal death in the entirety of Jurassic Park. Even more than, what's her name? Zara, the useless one from Jurassic World. Right, that's enough speculation from me. Anyway, I think I'm done. Let me know what you think down below. How are these Compies, how are these Pteranodons going to be implemented? Will we see Dimorphodon and stuff down the line? That'd be pretty cool. How much control are we going to have? I think, given these, the Aviary itself is probably the biggest highlight of Jurassic Park DLC for a lot of people. For me personally, it's something we'll talk about in the next video. It's the remodel of Velociraptor. But I don't know why I had to do that, so I'm like trying to flirt with you. I'm just you. Whoever you are watching this, I'm flirting with you, but nobody else watching this. Does that make any sense? No, but let's roll with it. What was I saying? I was saying words. Say that much. God, I'm annoying. Damn it. I actually have forgotten what I was saying. Yeah, entirely. Wow. Cool. Oh yeah, the Aviary is probably the big thing. So if they're going to do a feature focus on Tuesday, which they're going to talk in depth about some mechanic of the DLC, that would probably make a lot of sense to start off with. So hopefully I'll be able to bring you even more information in a couple of days. But this is what we know so far. Analysed, in depth, and a little bit of speculation to round things off. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please do consider throwing me a like. I'll see you lovely folks in a couple of hours for a little bit more speculation and pretty in-depth analysis, I will say, on the dinosaur remodels and new skins and stuff like that. But until then, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you lovely folks next time. Cheers, much love as always. Bye-bye. Hey folks, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and you want to help support me a little bit more, you can do so at patreon.com/bestinslot. There's a link in the description down below. Every little really does help in times like these, but it's not at all expected, and by just watching the video you've already helped me out massively, and it makes you a pretty cool person, so well done you. Thanks for joining me either way, I'll see you next time.